Europe is a relatively small continent compared to Asia or Africa, yet it has an unusually large number of countries packed into a small space, including some so tiny that you could drive across them in under an hour, which raises a simple question: why does Europe have so many small nations while other parts of the world are dominated by much larger states? The answer starts with geography. Because Europe is naturally divided by mountain ranges, rivers, forests, and peninsulas that historically separated populations from one another long before modern transportation existed. When communities were harder to connect, they often developed their own languages, identities, and political systems instead of merging into one large, unified state. But geography alone doesn't explain why the map stayed so fragmented, because Europe also spent centuries as a battleground of competing kingdoms, empires, and city-states where power was constantly shifting but rarely unified for long. Unlike places where one empire absorbed huge territories permanently, Europe often had multiple powers balancing each other, preventing any single state from dominating the entire continent for too long. And this created a map where borders were repeatedly negotiated, redrawn, and defended rather than erased completely. Religion also played a major role, because conflicts between Catholics, Protestants, Orthodox Christians, and later nationalist movements strengthened separate identities instead of blending them together. Then came the rise of nationalism in the 1800s, when many groups no longer wanted to be ruled by distant empires and began demanding their own states based on language, culture, or ethnicity. That pressure helped break apart larger empires like Austria-Hungary and the Ottoman Empire, creating even more countries. The 20th century accelerated this process further because after two world wars and later the collapse of the Soviet Union and Yugoslavia, new borders appeared again as regions pushed for independence. And there's another reason many of these small countries survived, because Europe gradually built a system where tiny states no longer needed to be conquered or absorbed to survive. With trade, alliances, and later the European Union, even small countries could remain independent while still benefiting from access to larger markets and shared security.